evening and welcome back to the Ask Dr. Renee show here at blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee, and I am so excited to have this conversation. So in case you didn't know, October is actually October. I don't know what month I'm in. September is actually Blood Cancer Awareness Month. And so we have somebody who is a very special story that I cannot wait to share with you. But first of all, we have to do our housekeeping. Everyone needs to share the broadcast because inevitably someone's going to learn something tonight. If it's not you, it's the person you share it with. So please share the broadcast. No matter what platform you're watching on, please share the broadcast. And if you're not already, make sure that you are following and subscribe to and got notifications coming in for blackdoctor.org and Ask Dr. Renee, because you don't want to miss this valuable information that we give here all the time at blackdoctor.org and, of course, on the Ask Dr. Renee platforms. So thank you so much for doing that. And I will bring on our guest. Good evening, Tawula, right?
Tawilwa.
See, I knew I was. So I call her T, and that's what we're going to call her tonight.
That is totally fine.
So first of all, I have to say, so T and I are not technically related, but we are related. So we share cousins and my aunts and my uncle.
Yes, we do.
So we're almost blood related. And her sister has blessed me on the Ask Dr. Renee show before. So you guys should go back and watch that show. She's amazing and has an amazing company. But T, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so glad that you took my invitation and were like, yes, of course. So I'm so excited. So I had no idea her story till one day she posted on Facebook, I think it was. And I was like, what? I had no idea. And so I was just blown away. And so ever since then, I was like, I got to have her come and talk about it. So I'm so excited to have you talk about Tea Talks and everything. So please tell us, how did it all come to be, and how did you find out and all that good stuff?
Oh, it came to be in 2017. I had went to our cousin's wedding in California, and I had got gravely ill, not realizing what was wrong. I just thought it was.
I had no idea that's when it happened.
Yes.
That's where we met you guys, by the way, was at our cousin's wedding.
So I went to California, and I didn't feel very good. And they got ready to play the good music. The soca music was getting ready to start, and I was getting ready to dance. And next thing I know, my feet buckled on the dance floor. And when I looked down, it was swollen up. So we went into the bathroom, and luckily they had some, flip-flops in a basket in the restroom. I put some on, and my feet never recovered. So we got back to the hotel room. I would tell my sister, I said, hey, my feet are hurting. I said, so let's just chill out here in the hotel. And we did. We got up the next day. We left, went to our respective homes. And next thing you know, I get back to Texas, and I'm brushing my teeth, and I hear crack in my back. But it was so loud that I thought my husband heard it too. And I said, did you hear that? And he goes, oh no, I didn't hear anything. And next thing you know, I got dizzy. I got overheated. And I said, I'm going to lay down. I said, you go ahead and go on to work, and I'll see you there. And luckily, we worked in the same vicinity. A parking lot separated both of our respective businesses. So when I got to work, he finally said, hey, you feeling any better? I said, oh, I'm feeling a lot better. But as the days went on, I was progressively getting worse, not realizing that anything was wrong. I just thought my back was hurting, my feet swole. And again, I was a person who never had swelling of the feet, swelling the fingers, anything. Next thing you know, I go to a chiropractor, and he puts me on one of those beds that they have these little roller bars in it, and he starts to turn the machine on, and the roller bar starts to move. I yelled out the biggest yell. I scared everybody in the facility. He takes me off. He puts me up against the wall. He straps me to this wall, and he uses this little machine, and he starts stretching me. I yelled again. So finally, on the third time, he says, well, I'm just going to put you on the table. He did do an adjustment, and it felt better for a second. But by the time I got into the car, I was no good. So to speed up the story just a little bit, this went on for about, I want to say about a month. I try to go get a massage. I try to go do this. I try to go to the chiropractor. And the entire time, my husband and my sister are saying to me, you just really need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, it's nothing. It's just a little backache. So
sometimes you should listen to the little sister.
So we go off and we plan a vacation, and on the vacation, it was the vacation literally from hell. We got to the airport. Feet started swelling, but I didn't think anything of it. And my back was hurting. I just thought, okay, back hurt. So this has been going on for 3 months, and I just never paid it any attention. Next thing you know, I get to the airport and I could barely walk. So the doctor, before we had left, did say, well, you need to walk as much as you can, as much as possible. So here's my husband being the cheerleader. Get up and walk. Let's walk to the next gate. Big mistake. By the time we got off the plane, Dr. Renee, and got to the, the car rental place, I could not walk. We get to the hotel room, and literally my husband puts my arms around his neck, and he's like, take one step at a time. And it took us about 20 minutes to get from the car to the door of the hotel room. So I couldn't get comfortable in the bed. I couldn't get comfortable in the on the couch, the chair. I mean, the toilet, everything was a issue to do or to sit or to find any comfort. So finally, about halfway through the night, I tell my husband, I said, I really think it's time that you take me to the emergency room. I said, the pain is so persistent. The pain now, it's just, I can't take it. He takes me to the emergency room. They give me, they check me over. They just said, oh, okay, nothing's wrong. Let me just give you some painkillers. We go fill the prescription. 4 hours later, I was back in the emergency room again. And this persisted through the vacation for about 3 to 4 times I went to the hospital while I was in South Carolina. So finally, my husband says on that 4th try, he was like, you know what? I think it's just best we just drive back to Texas. I said, are you crazy?
How many hours is that? And your back hurts?
Because, well, and it was really sweet because he was like, we can stop along the way, we can stretch, we can walk, be a lot easier. I said, listen, we're going to go ahead and get on that plane. If they have to bring it down as an emergency, landing, that's fine. I said, but 4 hours and 2 days traveling home, because what would be a 12-hour drive could end up being 2 or 3 days on the road because I'm not feeling good, right? So I said, this is what we're going to do. We get back home, and I could barely walk. And finally, like, I had talked to my mom, and she said, you know what? You're not feeling good. You've been to the emergency room in South Carolina. You've been to the emergency room in Texas. She says, why don't you just go ahead and go to the county hospital? And I go, okay, but I ignored it. So I went to Doc in a Box, which is Care Now, one of these urgent care centers. We get to the urgency care center, and the lady's like, oh my gosh, it's you again? And I said, yeah. I said, my back is killing me. She's like, listen, the highest drug we have is tramadol. And at that time, I did not know what tramadol even was. And I said, okay. I said, but I just need something because my back is hurting. And she said, okay, but that's all we have. So at this point, I had been labeled, flagged as somebody drug seeking, which I didn't know. And these are the things that they don't tell you along the way, or nobody tells you, especially if you're not in this realm of the world, that your name goes into a database. So had she pulled my name from the database as suspected, she would have known I got drugs in South Carolina, because I did have to present my license in South Carolina to get the narcotic. I did again when I got back in Texas, but it does look like you're hopping from one facility to another, just
Especially because you left the state.
So I went to Doc in a Box twice. And on the second time, Doc in a Box said, finally, the same doctor that was in there that told me, you know, hey, this is the highest drug we have here. You're going to have to go somewhere else. And I go somewhere else. I said, listen, my back is really hurting me. And I said, I really need some, you know, something done. So she goes out, she must have talked to the head doctor in charge of the facility at the time. And that doctor finally came in. And finally, the doctor comes out and says, do you mind if I take an x-ray of your back? And I said, oh, of course, please, whatever you have to do. She takes an x-ray of my back and she says, our x-ray machine is not very good here. She says, however, I still want to just see something. She takes the x-ray of my back, and right in the x-ray of the back, there was a chip, like a little something spawning off from the spine. She goes, your back is broken. She says, but I really can't diagnose that yet. She says, I'm going to go ahead and schedule you for an MRI on Monday. Well, needless to say, Dr. Renee, I never made it Monday to the MRI, because that very night that I went home, I told my husband, I said, you know what? My mom said, go ahead and go to the county hospital. I said, why don't you go ahead and take me up there and drop me off on your way to work. And by the time you're through with work, you can just pick me back up, because I'm thinking it's just a back problem. Finally, I get to the county hospital. My husband said, are you crazy? He says, when I come home from work tomorrow, I'm going to go ahead and take you to the doctor, and I'm going to sit up there with you. I said, okay, no problem. Sure enough, he set me up for success before he left for work. And when he got home, he noticed, he says, I put a tray of food in this bed. He says, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you didn't eat anything. I said, I didn't eat anything, and I didn't even go to the bathroom. I said, it's time to go to the emergency room. We go to the county hospital emergency room, and this is where the bells and the whistles in the movies will start, because that's when action started happening. I was not in the waiting room about 15 minutes before a doctor and nurse came running through the waiting room looking for me and saying, are you Tawelwa Mitchell? And I said, yes, I am. And he says, are you sure? And he says, when is your birthday? And I told him my birthday. He says, are you sure that is your birthday? And I said, exactly, that is my birthday. I said, here's my license to prove it. He says, okay. When I went to the county hospital, part of their pre-assessment to, I guess, label you on what is chronic, what's, priority here to take care of.
Triage.
They did a blood test and a urine test. The first time anybody asked for blood or urine at all the places that I went. And my blood was off the chart, and my urine started navigating that I had protein in my urine. So needless to say, I just said, hey, well, can you go ahead and give me my prescription? I said, because I'm ready to go home and go to bed, and hopefully this will take away the pain. The doctor says, ma'am, I'm so sorry. You're not going home. Something is definitely wrong with you. He says, we're not really sure yet. He says, but all I can say to you is that something really is wrong. So a few hours later, I was admitted to the hospital. They did an MRI. They came back in that night and they said, we have to have surgery on your back. And I said, exactly why? He says, your T6 and your T9 and your T12 are broken in your back. He says, have you been in a car accident? I said, no. He said, are you sure? A skiing accident, car accident? And I said, no, I haven't been in anything. I said, I've just been walking around in pain for the last 2-3 months. I said, and everywhere that I go, people think I'm seeking drugs. He goes, no, something is really wrong. I can't tell you exactly what it is. He says, we're going to run a few more tests. He says, but your blood chart is off the chart. So later that day, the next morning, I had the immediate back surgery. That's how bad it was. So with myeloma, it started breaking the bones in your body immediately. So, but the way my bone in my spine had broken, it looked like I had a high impact crash or something of that nature to present this way. Because most people with myeloma break either their ribs or their leg or the femur, which is the hardest bone to break in the thigh. And I broke my T9 and my T12 in my back. And next thing you know, I was admitted to hospital. I was there for 2.5 weeks in the hospital. Finally, a doctor comes in. And when I said I thought one doctor was coming, I had a team of 6 came in at the county hospital and said, I had a urologist, I had a nephrologist, I also had a general practitioner in there, and I had 3 cancer specialists standing in the room. And the one that I love to affectionately call the cowboy boots, he came in, he says, we really think that something's wrong with you. He says, we really think you have cancer. He said, we have one more test before we can determine if it's cancer. I said, listen. I said, only come back in this room and tell me when you know for sure. Don't come in here and say, we think you have. Let me know if it is or not. I said, that's very important information, and I don't think you need to be thinking about it. It needs to be determined. He says, well, we know you have some form of cancer, but we just don't know which type. But now that I know about myeloma, because myeloma presents very differently, they were trying to really outrule if it was leukemia or lymphoma. But they knew it wasn't lymphoma because I didn't have any, I guess it was the swelling in the nodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, so they were really leaning towards leukemia. However, once they looked at my Lambda and my Kappa, which I've now become a member of that club, I am Lambda myeloma patient, which means I'm not producing enough of the red blood cells at the time. So by the time I got to the hospital, I was already at 900 and something. My blood count just kept going up and up and up and up, which means that I am not able to fight off infection or diseases very easily. So if I get a common cold, it could take me 3 to 4 weeks to get over it. I had RSV, which I don't have children or anything like that. And I contracted RSV and I ended up in the hospital. So with myeloma, it is very sensitive. Each one of us presents different. No 2 of us are alike in terms of symptoms and how we present with the illness. So it's been a journey, but it's been rewarding in a lot of aspects. And I created T-Talks Myeloma because when I was seeking services or knowledge, there was nothing, there's really little bit out there. There's a lot on leukemia, there's a lot on lymphoma, but very little on myeloma. And African Americans present with this the most. However, it's typically at the age of 65. I presented at 46. And we're finding more African Americans are being presented younger. And it's really more males present than females. And now more females are presenting. So I asked the doctor, I said, well, how did I get this? He says, oh, just bad luck. Just bad luck. Your chromosomes just got all mixed up. But that was not the best answer. It really is. The best answer would have been you had it laying dormant and it presented at this time in your life for whatever reason, because a lot of people suffer with smoldering myeloma, which is another form of the blood cancer. And so just means smoldering means it's like a little fire that it's there, but nothing presents. However, when I started going through a lot of my medical records and history, I was presenting with it, but nobody, even though I was going to an endocrinologist, was treating me for that. They never looked any further, because now that I was looking at all of my test results, I kept having high protein in my urine. So they thought it was, oh, maybe you have thyroids. Oh, maybe you just have PCOS. Or you have this. I mean, they just kept giving me all this other stuff, even though I was going to an endocrinologist, but never did they seek further, So by the time I crashed with it, that's when the bones started breaking. That's when all of this stuff started happening. I was then taken seriously. And what I'm finding is that African Americans are not privy to a lot of the information that's out there and available for us, and are given opportunity to learn more about it. So like, for instance, the drug that I take to survive and to maintain life, it's $20,000 a month.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And my insurance pays $19,000 of it. And I have to finance the other $1,000. So luckily, and I'm blessed and fortunate to have some drug companies that have been able to give me a scholarship to subsidize the balance of what is due. So a lot of those programs are available, but a lot of people don't know that they're available out there to them. So what most people opt to do is take no treatment because they can't afford the $20,000 a month. So they opt for no treatment. And I wanted to live. And so I started being a busy bee on the internet, trying to find resources to help me sustain my life.
Yeah, that's $12,000 a year. Shoot, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
$20,000, and that's just for a 21-day supply of the pill. That's not 30 days.
That's not 30. I was like, each month has 30 or 31.
Okay. It's only 21 days. So this is called oral chemo. So I take oral chemo at home, and then for my 21 days and 7 days I have off. So 7 days I feel phenomenal, and then 21 days, it could be a roller coaster ride. Some days I forget things, which they call chemo brain.
Chemo brain. Mm-hmm.
Some days I just want to lay down, you're lethargic. Some days I'm cramping. It just, the gamut, you can feel any kind of way, any kind of day. So no 2 days are alike. The fatigue is unbelievable, So I have been advocating for myself different ways to sustain life. So I've figured out that I needed to change my eating habits. So I juice, I walk, my new craze is Pilates. I love Pilates, but I love Pilates because not only because it is shaping the body, I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm doing it because part of myeloma, it is now giving me osteopenia. I think I said it right, osteopenia, before osteoporosis. So because my bones are very brittle, and I do take treatment for that as well. And I was walking hunched over, and since doing Pilates, I'm walking straight again. So it's a whole new world, and trying to figure out what fits. And as I said, no two people are alike, and so what works for me may not work for you, but a general consensus can help. I believe in a lot of holistic things, doing my oils, doing crafts, just things to keep my mind off of it. So I basically cooked my way through chemo, trying to figure out how to eat right, eat better. And so I even put a few of those recipes online. So if you go to my website at T Talks Myeloma, you'll be able to sign up and get a free copy of some of the recipes that I did use from different resources I pulled together to use.
I'm going to put your website up here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
TalksMyeloma.com.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked here on Black Doctor a lot about food is medicine. Mm-hmm. And it really can be very, very beneficial to many people, is changing your diet. And, and then when you're taking all these medications that you have to take, then you need to figure out what can you do so that maybe you won't have the awful side effects of, this or that. And, it might be you have to bump up the calcium in your diet, or, so you don't get the osteopenia, or to fight it off,
Exactly. And so that's one of the things that I learned. And I really learned that the Mediterranean diet was the
That's the end
best.
all be all for everyone. I swear.
That's
Heart
the best for
disease,
me.
everything.
It actually ended up being the best for me in terms of, because the way that they eat, and they eat with color and so much oils and different things. I mean, I eat sardines like it's crazy now, just because, not because, oh, it's so good, but I'm figuring out different ways to do the sardines, because there's so much benefit in eating the fish, and that's part of the Mediterranean diet, and eating the nuts, and then juicing. And my nutritionist does not like me using juicing, because she says, the juice just goes into your system, and it just goes in, you drink it, and it goes out. But I feel it's been beneficial, because I've been doing the dandelions and the different types of greens that have a lot of benefits, especially for cancer, to help the body. So, and I use a lot of oils. I believe in the Young Living oil system. I mean, I mix in my potions, and the whole time I was doing chemo at the chemo center, I never got sick because I had my oils with me, and I was rubbing. I started rubbing everybody in the in the facility. They saw me coming. They're like, "Oh my God, Tawella's here. Let's start rubbing with this. You got her oils. You got your oils." And but the community that you make is important. So one of the things that I like to really tell people is, when you start walking the walk of cancer, community is the most important thing. And at first I shut everyone out because I was trying to process. But the more I started getting involved, the more I started going to the different support groups and different things like that, I realized that's where your healing comes, because they gave more information. And then I was able to link up with one of the best doctors in the country at MD Anderson. And I can't thank the county hospital and MD Anderson enough. Because of those two places, I'm here. All the other hospitals didn't give two hoots about what I
Right.
am. And one of the things that I would like to plug about MD Anderson is, it's a holistic approach to everything. So they also use what is integrative medicine, which some people say is new age medicine, but they use new age integrative medicine along with your myeloma oncologist. And they all two of those teams work together to provide you the best. So when I say I have a nutritionist, I have a psychologist, I have a social worker, I mean, you name it, I have it, in order to sustain life. And they take it very seriously, that they want to make sure that you don't have an ounce of angst, going through this process, from the wigs that you wear, just the love and the support that you get going to both places is phenomenal. So I would always tell people, don't knock a county hospital, and always try to get into one of the best hospitals in the country in order to sustain your life. Just don't stay with your local. And my local and my MD Anderson team work together here to make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah, the county hospitals, the thing about the county hospitals, because I trained at a county hospital, I trained at Cook County, which the TV show ER was based off of. And the county hospital, they see so many rare things that they look for things that your private hospital is probably not looking for. But because the county hospital gets all of the, like right now, we have all of these red states sending all of these migrants to the blue state. So Cook County Hospital is seeing stuff that nobody else is seeing, because those patients are going to them.
Yes.
It's that thing in med school that we learned that only 1 out of 20,000 people had, but and I mean, it wouldn't be on your differential, but it's on your differential because you're at Cook County Hospital, and you're like,
exactly.
well, last week the lady came in and she was from such and such, and she had only been here a week, and sure enough, that's what she had, So that's why I think county hospitals really are, they get a bad rap sometimes. And yes, there are long waits sometimes because of the fact of the volume of people that they have to see. The quantity is a lot, but it's a lot of people, because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country that don't have insurance, and the county hospital will take them. So, but the county hospital really does have some amazing physicians there, and they do some amazing training there, because there's things that otherwise we were not going to see, weren't going to hear of, never would have known. And, you know, I saw things that I was like, I thought I'd only see that in the textbook.
Well, you know, and Dr. Renee, what is so phenomenal about the county hospital? It gets a bad rap, and you're right. They do see everything. But do you know that I still have those same emergency room doctors today?
Oh, wow.
I just saw one on Thursday.
Well, you know, I
They
will
also,
say that the people who work there, as far as like the attendings, they want to work there and they love it, and that's why they're there. The attending I had for the peds ICU, I will not forget that man. I can't remember his name, but that man was old enough to be my great grandfather, I think. And they said he had been there forever, but he loved it and he was sharp. So it wasn't like he was senile and he should go home. No, he was sharp. The man was walking around. I don't think he had a cane. He walked the floors. And so those people, they love what they do and they're doing it for the right reasons. And no matter how crazy this healthcare system is, because it is a doozy, they are there for the right reasons. So they do have low turnover. Yeah.
And so, you know, I want to just always give praise to the county hospital. You know, they are overlooked, and people go, you have insurance, you still go there? I still go there. And when I go, I mean, it's like I get treated like royalty because I've made friends with all of them. They know me well. When they see me, they're like, oh my God, you're sick again, you know, but they roll out the red carpet, you know, and I move on. I have not been wronged by that system. When I go to, it's just like going to MD Anderson. And when you go to there, it's the whole red carpet is
same thing, right?
Yeah. So there's no mix in the system.
And that's the way it should be for everyone everywhere. Don't get me wrong, because I've said that before, that I didn't know that people treated people differently when they didn't have insurance, because the doctor that my mentor that I worked with, she's an OBGYN in Detroit, Dr. Patrice Harold, she treated everybody exactly the same. It wasn't until I went back to work with her when I was in med school, because I worked with her when I was in college. When I went back in med school, I paid attention to the charts, and that's when I learned it's who had insurance and who was on Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever. And I was like, oh, had no idea, because she treated everybody like they were, you know, her top priority at the time of their appointment. So there was no difference. And so when I heard that people were treating people differently, I was like, what? Like, I was so confused. But then, like I said, so then for a minute, I thought she didn't have anyone that didn't have insurance. So she treated everybody the same. And sure enough, I found out, and I was like, wow, she's just an amazing person, period. And so that's why everyone was treated the same. And, you know, she did everything. She did everything the exact same way for every patient, because everyone got the best care.
Exactly.
Which is the way
that's how it should be. Yeah, that's how it should be. Yeah. But I advocate for people to seek resources. And so once again, I want to say that my website, I have put all the resources out there for them. What's available, scholarships that's available, all this money that's out there to help people with blood cancers. And not necessarily have to be multiple myeloma, but it could be leukemia or lymphoma or whatever blood issue that you may be having. Go out there. My website has it there available readily for them to use those services so that they're not overlooked. And I want people to seek services, because there's a lot out there that people,
and there's so much research obviously going on, because she, you know, you see her here, she's fine. No, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's research, there's ways that they've figured out treatments that people can go on. You know, you're not having to, you know, like we've had recently, we've had chronic kidney patients on the show, and they had to go to dialysis for several hours, 3 days a week. And then, of course, like I said, research, they were able to switch to peritoneal dialysis, where they didn't have to go and they could do it themselves at home. So that's what I'm saying. You know, you don't have to go to the hospital, be hooked up to the chemo machine, to the IV, and have your chemo through IV. You can do it at home orally. So, that's why it's so important that you do have a conversation with the physicians. And if the physician doesn't know, then she's telling you her website has these great resources, because sometimes the physicians don't know. Like, we don't know everything. And sometimes they don't know. There's all sorts of ways to get around paying for prescriptions and paying less for prescriptions, but you have to have somebody who can do the research. I know with my own family, we had a prescription that was, I think it was going to be $3,000 per month. And we went to, the social worker told us, she's like, go to the website for the manufacturer. I'm sure there's something you can figure out. And she was right. There was something we could figure out, and we don't pay that much for it. So you just have to, either someone has to tell you, or you just have to be resourceful enough to go and find it. And that's why I feel bad for people that don't have an advocate that can help them, because I know that for my parents, I've been very helpful with, I'm going online and I was like, okay, well, I found this and I found that and this card. And now, everything's digital. They text me the number for the card. I went to the pharmacy. I told them this is the number, and they put it in, and sure enough, the bill came down, So, but you don't know what you don't know. And people don't realize, like, those commercials, GoodRx and all that stuff, that's what that is. That is a service that will help you to decrease how much you have to pay for these prescriptions.
Exactly. And I also want people to know, though, always make friends with the nurse and your pharmacist.
Yep.
Those two people will help you. And if your facility has a social worker, always befriend the social worker, because just as Dr. Renee said, they know resources that will help you. Yep. And a lot of those resources, I was like, listen, Dr. Renee, I know we got to go, but the social worker gave me a resource for somebody to come in and clean my house. And this cleaning agent, what they do, if you have cancer and you're going through treatment, they realize that you're exhausted when you come back from chemo. Right. So they want to come in, they clean your house at no cost to you. They provide you 3 cleanings throughout your treatment cycle. This is just one place I'm mentioning. So think how many other places around the country that have something similar to this.
Right.
Take advantage of the services.
Preparing meals, all sorts of things. Like our social worker told us, my dad's a vet. She's like, you really should try. It took 2 years to get him registered with the VA, but we finally did. And the wealth of services that they have given us that we've not had to pay for is just amazing. But it's all because it just, like I said, it took a little bit to get him registered. But once we got him registered, the wheelchair was too small. They gave us a new wheelchair, They came and installed the extra things so that he's safe in the, bathroom and in the, all these things. But you don't know until you ask, or you have someone that came. Like I said, the social worker came, she got to know us, and then she understood. She was like, wait, he's a vet? Yeah. We're like, how many years ago was that? So, it didn't mean anything to us. And she goes, no. That means something. You need to do something with that. And we're like, okay. And she was absolutely right. And so you gotta, we had a nurse that came, and she said, you know what? You could have a podiatrist come to the home, because at the time we couldn't transport him because he was wheelchair bound. You would have to get a wheelchair accessible vehicle to come get him, to take him to his appointments. She was like, and that was very costly, and we still never could get around that cost. And so she was like, no, a podiatrist will come and check his feet regularly, and it'll be completely covered by your insurance. And that's exactly what started happening. They put him on the schedule. They come every whatever. And so, but we had no idea. But like you said, the nurse that was coming to the house, she's the one that said it. And she was like, give him a call. I'm positive his insurance will take care of that. And sure enough, she was right.
So I just want people to advocate. And if you don't know somebody, listen, contact me on my website. I can help you the best I can, or send you in the right direction. But if not, there's someone in your community that can really aid and assist you. Just don't give up on healthcare. That's my whole thing. I'm very passionate about people not giving up. I celebrated this year. So this last month on the 29th, I celebrated 6 years of being a cancer survivor. You know, I like to consider myself a cancer survivor. Even though I'm still under treatment, I'm surviving because I'm still going, you know. And, you know, as Dr. Renee said, they came out with 3 new drugs that are on the protocol now to help people with myeloma. They found out that one of the drugs that even was for another use, they found out it didn't serve that population very well, and it ended up being classified as a myeloma drug now. So, you know, there's so many options out there, and just don't give up. Speak up for yourself. Speak up for yourself.
Definitely. You know? And also, like you said, it usually affects people who are 65 and older. The Department on Aging, every city has one. You have to contact them. They have so many resources for our seniors. So many resources. You know, get them to their appointments, get people to help them in their homes. There's so many resources for seniors that a lot of seniors, unfortunately, don't have somebody to advocate for them, to help them. But if you can help somebody, Department on Aging is a department that is in every city, has one. And you just have to contact there's even transportation for them to get to and from their appointments. And even if you, because my dad was in the hospital and I saw a shuttle bus and we needed to get him to this appointment. And so I called and said, where does that shuttle bus go? And sure enough, the shuttle bus would pick him up from home and take him back to the hospital for his appointments. And I was like, and it was free.
This is my point.
But you don't know what you don't know. And the doctors make the appointments. The nurse and the doc, nobody mentioned how he was going to get to this appointment. But I was like, there has to be another way, because it was costing like $200 round trip, no lie. So it was getting very costly to get him to his appointments. And needless to say, he has a lot of appointments. So, you know, it's really important that you ask questions. And if you can help an elderly person, because obviously they may not, and there are a lot of them, my godmother being one of them, who is really good with the computer. Not all of them are, though. And so the ones that are not, you know, they might need somebody to help them to do the research and to sign up for whatever. And you know what I mean? So if you can help them out, volunteer if you can, and, you know, help people out, because the Department of Aging, you have to contact them. They're not going to call you. So
exactly,
if you have to call for someone, then call for them to help them out so that they can get what they need. Because there's so many people, you know, myeloma is myeloma, but there's people who don't take their blood pressure medicine because they can't afford it. Exact same situation. You have the medication here that would take care of the, you know, the illness, but you're not taking it because you can't afford it, or you're not taking the right dosage because you know that you can't afford to buy the next. No, you need to tell somebody, because there's always a way to fix it. There's always something. There's always a loophole. There's something.
Yep. Ask the pharmacist, ask your nurse, ask the social worker. I advocate for those 3 people, you know, because sometimes, like you just said, the doctor don't know everything, but the minutia of things, ask your pharmacist, ask your nurse, and ask the social worker that's on site, you know. Definitely. And I work with everybody in my care to make sure that I was not overlooked and not just a number or statistic. And that's what I want people to do, not just be a number. Really advocate for yourself. And if you don't, find somebody like me out there that is nosy and want to find out everything and research everything, you know? So, and that's what I did. And I said, you know what? Don't let these services go to waste. Put it out there for other people to have. Make it easier for somebody else, you know? They have it for the other cancers out there, but they don't have enough out there for myeloma. And, you know, the joke is everybody thinks that myeloma is melanoma, the skin cancer, and they're 2 completely
different things. Yes. Yeah.
So I always like,
and you know what, also from her story, something I always say, if something is wrong, rather than put the Band-Aid on it, figure out why is it wrong. She was in pain. Why is she in pain? Why did her back crack like that? Why are her feet swollen? Not, okay, well, you just need to put your feet up, or you need to just walk. No, why? There has to be a reason why. We can't, like I said, you can't just put a Band-Aid over it. You need to figure out, why is this happening?
Well, that was one of the things because, when I got to the emergency room and it's written in my file, I said I was eating Advil like candy. She goes, well, how many have you taken? I said, I don't know. If my back started hurting, I took another one, and she's like, oh my God, you don't know how many pills you've taken? No, but here's the bottle. And
Right.
I just had a few and it sounded like Tic Tacs by the time I got through because I was just popping them because I was in so much pain. So needless to say, to this day, I cannot take Advil or, any ibuprofen whatsoever because it affects the kidneys, and because myeloma affects the kidneys, you can't have the two. So
yeah. But
I'm a Tylenol girl.
Right. So but you have to figure out what is the root cause. And so,
I just kept putting a Band-Aid on it. Like you just said, I just put a Band-Aid like,
right.
It's just.
Yeah, the chiropractor was he was doing a Band-Aid and all the pain meds. And rather than calling her drug seeking, maybe you have a conversation and do an actual H&P and figure out, why is she in pain? Like,
why have you gone all these different places?
Her back was hurting. You don't do an X-ray. It never occurred all that time.
Never occurred. Never. And it also goes to, and something that I think we touched a little bit on, but I think a lot of times Black people, especially women, are overlooked a lot on their pain, their problem, but had somebody else ask me more questions, all I knew to tell them was my back was hurting, but nobody asked me about the fatigue. Nobody asked me about how much I was sleeping. Because when you go down the list of all the questions to, are you having these? I identified with every one of them on there, but all I knew to say to somebody was my back was hurting. That's it, And when he showed me an example of what my back looked like, I need to post it one day. I mean, myeloma does the best example would be, it's like French bread. When you slice down, your bone is the loaf, but when you slice down the middle of the French bread and you see all those holes, that's what myeloma is doing to your bone. It's eating away the plasma, that's in there, and not collecting, not making enough to sustain and make it whole and hold together. And so I struggled with that. Nobody asked any other question, and all I kept saying is my back is hurting. My back is hurting. And people need to dwell a little further and take, especially Black women, seriously when they say they're in pain.
Yeah. Yep. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And please, 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 everyone, visit her website, follow her on Instagram. And if you know somebody that sounds like they're presenting with some of these symptoms, and maybe this is something that they need to bring up to the doctor because they haven't been, properly tested either. So definitely pay attention. Like I said, Blood Cancer Awareness Month. So we want to make sure every day of the year that we pay attention to these things, but this month specifically, make sure that you find out. And as I always say, please know your family history. Find out if somebody else in your family had some form of cancer, because a lot of these cancers are genetic and pass through the family. So if someone had prostate, if someone had colon, there is testing that has to be done at a certain age because of that. But you don't know if you don't have a clue. So if your mother, died at 40 from colon cancer, then you need to start having colonoscopies at 30. But your doctor won't know that if you don't tell them. So you can't blame the doctor. You have to know your family history to tell them that. Same thing with prostate cancer is another one. You need to start having your prostate checked 10 years before the person got prostate cancer. So whatever age they were, 10 years before that, that's what age you have to start having your prostate checked. So it's so important that we know our family history so that we can pay attention to all these things, because you can, quickly get to a diagnosis if you know the history. And that's what I was saying. History and physical would have been to ask her more questions than to just worry about her pain in her back. More questions and physical exam might have led to a quicker diagnosis. So.
Well, thank you, Dr. Renee.
You're welcome, and thank you.
I enjoyed every minute of it.
Thank you. And everyone, we will see you again next week. Bye. Okay.